Hey there, I'm Nick Shu, Operations Lead at Previous Next. Today I'm excited to give you an overview of the Skpr user interface. So, what is the Skpr user interface? Well, it's a centralized interface that provides product owners, developers, and operations teams with a unified visibility and control across multiple sites and applications. Product owners gain a centralized overview of their sites and their current status. Developers can manage multiple applications seamlessly in a single unified interface. Operations teams can monitor metrics and configurations across multiple sites through a centralized dashboard. And ultimately, the Skpr UI takes all the utility we built with our command line interface and exposes it to a wide variety of customers, while also incorporating metrics from our telemetry systems. The Skpr UI offers customers an alternative way to interact with the Skpr hosting platform, complementing our command line interface with a seamless side by side experience. For example, if you're using a CI/CD system, so a GitHub Actions, a Circle CI, a Jenkins, our CLI integrates with that seamlessly. If you need to monitor and manage your application after it's been deployed through the CI/CD system, well, you have the option to do that either through our CLI or through our Skpr UI. The Skpr UI offers a plethora of features. Some highlights include a cluster overview to see the health of the Skpr cluster hosting your applications at a glance, metrics so you can dig into the performance characteristics of your applications, so the number of requests, how much CPU, memory, PHP processes are being used at any given time, configuration, so the ability to manage the lifecycle of your API keys and feature toggles, CDN, so the ability to manage the cached content on your site provided by our CDN, so CloudFront, and that comes standard with all our applications. Events, so review key events that have occurred on your application, so if a deployment was triggered recently. Cron jobs, so track background task execution, for example, Drupal's Cron system or Search API's indexing. So you get to see the last time that was executed and how long it took to execute. Logs, so you can get a real time stream of logs while you're debugging your application in dev, staging, and production. And backup and restore workflows. So that's data restoration if data is accidentally deleted, or syncing between environments. So syncing content, so files and database from production to staging to dev. Next, let's go to the demo where I'll guide you through the user interface and provide a high level overview of each of the features that we just covered. And here we have the Skpr UI. As you'll see, this is the landing page. This provides us with an overview of the cluster. So we get our status. So we get an understanding of the cluster's status. So this cluster is healthy. And then we also get a high level overview of the traffic that's coming into the infrastructure, into the cluster itself. So we get to understand across all the projects running on this cluster, this is the total number of web requests that we're receiving. And then we also get to understand the number of origin responses that we get back. So at a very high level, we can understand with the volume of traffic that we're getting, we're also returning the majority of this traffic is 200s. So, and some 300s and some 400s in there. And with a slight undertone of fives. So if there was a big spike in 500s, you could see at a very high level, okay, we need to go look into our applications and understand if there's an issue. On the other hand, if there's a big rise and spike in requests, this is also where you'll see that. And as we go down, we can see our projects. So we'll get our list of inventory of projects, our portfolio of projects. So we have in this example content, 3 projects. And as we work our way across, you can see that we have a contact. So the contact can be anything from a person's name to an email address to a team to a Slack channel. It's a free text field. It's meant to be there for understanding, okay, if there is an issue or if I need to talk to somebody, this is the way that as an organization or as a team, this is how we do it. You get a high level overview of the version that was deployed and the current environments that are running on the project. So a standard configuration that's rolled out for all our projects is dev, staging, production. You might have an extra 1 or 2 environments to facilitate your workflow. Those will also appear here. Next across, we can also see the size of the project. So small, medium, large, micro. Um, yeah, you get to see across your entire inventory resourcing provisioning for all projects. You get to see tags. So each project can come under a group. That could be anything from a faculty to just a development team ownership that has ownership over a project. That's what tags are for. And then we also have project resources. So understanding, okay, across the entire project, this is how much CPU memory and how many instances of our web server is running. So 3, 2, and 5. Now I quickly skipped over it, but now we've covered all the table, we can go back and look at the search. So we do a free text search. So I can search one and I'll get project one back. And then I can also search by tag. So I can search by groups. So if I went group 2, then that would filter me down to project 3 that has the group 2 tag. This allows you a high level understanding of, okay, if team A has 3 or 4 projects, I can quickly filter down and then get a list of all those projects. Subsequently, these are also free text and you can modify them how you like. Next, let's go to a project and see what we have there. So on this project page, we have our metadata for the project, so the contact information and the tags. So if I wanted to modify this contact, like I said, it can be anything from a person's name to a Slack channel to an email. So I could have the Skpr Rocks Slack channel if I wanted to. It's anything you want. It's meant to be an identifier, so then you can go and, as an organization, understand who to talk to. And then we also have tags. So, and this is very much modeled off of GitHub's tags option for repositories. So you can add a tag to it, or you can start to type one in. And I might as well just use Skpr Rocks again because it does. So let's go create tag, and we have a new tag called Skpr Rocks. And then we go save, and then we've just updated our tags. Next, we have our list of environments with a high level overview of, okay, what version's deployed, is it deployed, is it deploying, what state is it in, and what resources are currently being used at any given time. So now we'll click into the environment. So we'll go into production and we're greeted with a lot of vital information. So we're provided our top level status for the project, for the environment. We're greeted with the domains associated with the environment, and then also the metadata around what versions deployed, how many instances of the application are running at any given time, so the min and the max, so you can understand your scaling. And also the same goes for CPU and memory, so you can understand how much CPU you're using across all your web instances and how much memory. And as we scroll down, we're greeted with our key metrics. So these are vital to the health of a project. So understanding response times for your application and also understanding the response codes that you're returning. So understanding, okay, what's the average response time for my application? And then if I drill into my P95s and P99s, I can start to find outliers for my application that might become a problem in the future. So I can try to really bring down not only my average response time for my user, but some outliers for my requests. I can also understand, okay, well, how many 200s am I serving? Are we serving a lot of 400s or redirects? Is that something we should be fixing? And then ultimately, are there any errors in my application? Was there a spike in 500s at any given time? So these two on the front page, extremely vital. Next, then we have our CDN. So the metrics that we just looked at are behind the CDN. So we cut out a lot of noise. But this at the CDN gives you an understanding of, okay, how many requests is the entire infrastructure serving, cached and non-cached? So we get our cache hit ratio. So we get to see, okay, what percentage of requests coming to my application are cached at any given time? And were there any CDN errors? So were there any errors between CloudFront for us and our application, whether they're network related or timeout related? We capture that here as well. We also capture if there are any invalidations. So invalidations these two graphs provide two metrics. So the first one is the number of paths. So if an invalidation request comes through and it has 10 paths on there, we total that up. So you can understand how much content across your site is being invalidated, but also how many requests we did. So understanding how efficient we are at issuing invalidation requests to the CDN. And then stepping through, we can understand our resource utilization. So our CPU, our memory, and the number of web instances. So we can see our top 3 metrics over time. But not only that, we can also dig in and then see, okay, how many PHP processes are running? Do we have how many active? Do we have any idle waiting in the wings to serve requests? Or if we don't, then chances are our listen queue will kick up and we can understand, okay, are we waiting for a PHP process to become free to then serve a response to an end user? So these, coupled with CPU, memory, and replicas, are extremely vital as well. Events. So like when we were outlining our features of the Skpr UI, events provide us with a way to go, okay, was there a deployment recently? In this case, there was 3 shell events. So somebody of the development team got a shell session and then started running, for example, if I'm running Drupal, well, then I'm most likely running a drush command. So I'm running the Drupal CLI. As we step down, we've also got configs. So I can see the configs of my site. So a lot of these are stock standard and they're annotated as system. And that lets me go, okay, I've got a Drupal hash salt, so that helps me with the security of my application. I can also see where all the mount directories are in my application. And you can see I've got a user provided config where I've had a backend service. I've provided an API key. And I can modify these either through the actions section or I can add a new config here. As we work our way down, so we've got purges. These are invalidations at the CDN level. So we can look at the last time or how frequently we're triggering our invalidation requests and purging our cache and what paths they were on. So this really helps with debugging of how frequently we're purging a path. So if we were purging, say, example path every minute, well, then that's a bug and something we can look at, and we can get that through the Skpr UI. Backup and restore. So we've got our backups and our restores. We can do our backup restore workflow. So we can sync a backup or restore a backup and sync the content downstream. So from prod to staging or dev. So we can trigger that right here, or we can create a new backup as well. Stepping down, then we've got cron jobs. So here for this application, we have 3 cron schedules. This is quite typical for a Drupal application. So we've got the catch-all drush cron task, where then also indexing any content with Search API. And then we're also running a queue. And with these top level cron schedules, we can then see how often they're being executed and for how long they're taking. So logs are next. So right now we provide folks with a logs tail, which is very similar to what's provided on the CLI. So as a developer, I can start tailing live and then see all my logs coming in. So I could start the tail, test out and determine if there's a bug. So trigger a bug and then come back and then look through the records, these log records for the error that may have occurred. And I have the ability to start and stop as well. And finally, we also have MySQL. So we have our database images. So we provide for all our environments a containerized copy of the database that developers can sync down. So we provide a helpful command for folks to be able to pull that database image down. And then we also provide development teams with the last time it was packaged and how long it took to package. So that way they know how fresh the content is. And if the duration is quite high, then maybe there's some content we also want to strip out of the database to make it more efficient at building these images, or maybe they're just too big, meaning that that's going to take up a lot of space on my local workstation. So out of this UI, I get a lot of information just right in front. And that is the Skpr UI. And with that, thanks for watching. If you have any questions around the Skpr user interface, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. So you can contact me on my email, so nick@skpr.com.au, my Drupal Slack, so I'm in the Drupal Australia New Zealand channel, that's at nick_shu. And then finally, if there's anything that you just want to have a quick look at and then see some of these click-through demos, we actually have those on our docs site at docs.skpr.io. Thank you.